money. No, money. That's a different song. That was a song by the group that we covered at the beginning of the month. Was Money. No, we're not talking about money. Well, kind of are. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spoiler Room. We are here live. It is Rockin' World Month in the Spoiler Room, and I think they've been out of tune so far, but we'll see what happens with tonight's episode, where we are talking about Across the Universe from 2007. Now, if you remember, there was a resurgence of musicals that came out in the early aughts, I would say, around that time, late 90s, early aughts is when when they were coming out again, they were hitting it big, and Across the Universe is one of those that was hopping on that bandwagon, so to speak. But, you know, like Mamma Mia is all Abbott songs, they chose to make a movie, Cross the Universe, which is all Beatles songs. And we're talking about it tonight. So hopefully all they need is love, and we will let the blackbirds fly away and do their thing while we venture down the stairs, pull up a chair, and pop our favorite drinks to talk about Across the Universe from 2007. I have some wonderful folks with me talking here tonight. The man, the myth, the legend himself. It is Mr. Joe Randazzo. He is back with us. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, everyone.
So glad to have you back here to talk, especially about this film. Should be a fun conversation. And the man who keeps coming back for more, who warned us ahead of time. He did not like this film when he first saw it, but for you out there, the listeners, for your entertainment, and because he's a masochist, maybe secretly. I don't know if we need a safe word, blink twice or something, Ian, but my right-hand man, guy keeps coming back for more, Mr. Ian Simmons. How you doing?
I'm great, because I don't actually have to watch this movie ever again. I've done my penance.
I feel exactly the same way. Like, you know what? There's the Band-Aid. It's off. I can be done with this.
Joe, I wanted to kick this movie across the universe.
Wow. Well, I see we've got Ian's initial thoughts on it, and Joe's
mine.
and Joe's both. So thank you, everyone. Nice short spoiler room tonight. You all have fun. Let it be. And wow. So I'll give the synopsis. When the film opens and you finally realize that where you're at in the film, that'll be 40 minutes in. What you have is the story of a guy from Liverpool, go figure, who is coming to America, leaving his single mom in Liverpool and coming to America. We're not quite sure why yet, but we soon discover he wants to track down his actual dad, because his dad had a little romantic encounter with our guys. Prepare yourself. His name is Jude. Hey, Jude.
That'll never come into play.
Your dad is working at Princeton, but he is not a professor. He is a janitor there. And so
his name is Will Hunting. Oh, wait, sorry.
Wrong movie. Name. And so he meets his dad, but while there, he crosses paths with Max, who is kind of this carefree American, that's kind of wild college kid. And he befriends them. And Max has a sister named Lucy, but she doesn't come from the sky. No, she is from the area, and she has a boyfriend who goes off to the Vietnam War. And then she meets Jude while the guy is off at war, and they kind of have a connection. And long story short, her boyfriend dies. He hangs out with Max, and he falls for Lucy. All during the tumultuous 60s, where there's drafting going on for Vietnam, which Max ends up getting drafted. There's protests going on, and caught up in the middle of all this, some psychedelics, musicians that they cross paths with are our star-crossed lovers, so to speak, try to navigate these waters and discover their love and run into roadblocks and other problems and express themselves through Beatles songs. They also make friends with their landlady Sadie, who's an upcoming musician, who meets up with Jojo, who is a guitarist. And we see their story as well. There's also Prudence, who really gets shortchanged in this film, which we'll talk about.
All these names are not going to come into play at all with Beatles songs at all.
No, none of these. Jojo and Sadie and Daniel and Prudence, Lucy, Jude. Yeah, Matt. Yeah, you get the point, folks.
Her name is Prudence. She came in through the bathroom window, and I was like, "Oh God!"
Which she did. She does here.
Fucking groaner.
They basically, the film takes the romantic comedy drama angle of a musical and takes Beatles songs and tries to give you literal interpretations of a lot of the Beatles songs, and either through their characters or the acts of the characters or the situations in general. And we see how this suddenly plays out. And also they enjoy jumping months. So you do have as well moments in here where you need to play catch up for a little bit because you're like, wait, where's this person and why are these things this way?
Wait, Mark, you only need to do that if you care. So
well,
I didn't have that problem.
Ian and I are going to have a blast with this one. I can tell already.
So I'm going to be in the minority of this film. Not completely, though. So we know where you guys stand. So for me, my wife, she ends up enduring the films I watch, usually because I get up on Sunday, we chill, we have coffee, we share, memes and stuff. And then I'm like, oh, I got to watch the movie for the podcast tonight. And she's like, well, which one is it? And so we sit down and I'm like, okay, well, this is Across the Universe with Beatles songs. And she's like, oh, okay. And so we watched it and she was looking up some reviews, and then she and I both agree that the first and now I know you guys didn't like it, but let's try to dive into this and humor me a little, at least. the first half of this film, I was like, I see where everybody's getting it. I see the criticism. The editor of this film needed to be replaced, is what they needed to do. That or the screenplay needed to actually have another once over, because her and I both, and it wasn't just me, so I was glad, we're trying to figure out where everything was, timeline was, and people were, because they almost imply in the beginning that when we see Lucy with her boyfriend and that, and he's going off to war, it's almost implied like that's a flashback to World War II, whereas then we have, Jude in the underground scene in London, and that seems more 60s. And so because small town America in the mid 60s was still kind of like the 50s or the 40s, it took a while for them to catch up. So for a while, her and I were trying to figure out, wait, is that flashback? Is this all in one period? It's not till they all like a bus passes someone with the Prudence character that you realize, oh, these are all in the same time frame. But like for the first 40 minutes of this film, at least, her and I were both like, what the fuck's going on? Who are we supposed to really be attached to, But I will say, I'm glad we got that, because we did get probably the best version of the songs in this movie because she was an actual singer. TV Carpio plays Prudence. She sings "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and her version of "I Want to Hold Her Hand" I really liked, and so did my wife. We liked that. We're like, so we got that, but everything else with the story wise, we're like, this is a lot of disjointed, like just random musical scenes.
Yeah, that's a big problem with the movie. Another thing is, like, it seems like this movie is what you get when you take the most basic cursory knowledge of Beatles songs, and you just happen to read the Wikipedia page of the United States in the 1960s, and you went, hey, I got this. I could write a screenplay.
Mhm.
Because it's, I mean, I feel like it's the most cursory knowledge you could have of either subject, and yet somehow whoever the screenwriter is decided, yes, I can do this job.
Mhm.
Because there's
There's
don't
three.
feel,
There's three screenwriters on this, so that's a problem right there.
that's usually a
you've
problem.
got you've got Dick Clement in here, who's he really didn't do anything big. He did a number of looks like foreign like TV series he had done. So you have him. You've got Ian. Hey, you share a name. Not that Ian though. Ian La Franas. Probably pronounced that wrong. Who did write The Commitments?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and yeah, he wrote The Commitments. He's a writer on it, and
because that was an actual excellent movie about musicians.
He was also a writer on the Tracy Ullman Show. It looks like, but nothing huge. Killing Bono. So he's written a number of music related stuff, and then Julie.
Killing Bono, I can understand because I definitely felt that way when he showed up in this movie.
and then Julie Taylor, who 5 years prior to this, who is the director as well as the co-writer, she did Frida from 2002, and she also directed Titus. So you have three people writing this script, and it feels like three people wrote this script. But it is, Ian, you and I have covered the last two for sure. Joe, I think
I missed the last two. Yeah,
you missed the last two. So Ian and I, one of the things we have mentioned, and this was just by coincidence, I just picked these movies. Okay, I'm putting it out there because they were movies that featured the music from all one genre or all one band, and they were musicals. And so I wanted to see how they were, specifically, where it's featuring all the music from just one, like Mamma Mia with ABBA and that. And the thing is, all three of them structurally run into this same problem where you've got these scenes which are like highly produced musical numbers, but they don't have a real good way of connective tissue of taking this musical number and connecting it to the next and making a cohesive narrative.
This one in particular, I watched Tommy last week, and maybe it's because I don't know the Who's music as well as I know the Beatles music.
Sure.
This one just felt like they wanted to just pop in a reference to the Beatles every chance they get. Like even right at the beginning when they're they're getting paid at the factory. The guy's talking about
don't say it. Oh God.
Say it.
The one I'm 64-bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she came in through the bathroom window, and
and Prudence actually comes through the bathroom window.
Yes. And then the songs just feels like, well, we wanted to do this song, so we shoehorned it in as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the problem, because it didn't feel like anything naturally progressed, like you said, from one thing to another. It also, why does Max look like he's inspired by Kurt Cobain? Like he's got a Kurt Cobain like look, and I'm like, this is supposed to be the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to figure out who that actor was, and I don't know if I recognize him from anything. But you're right; he does seem very much out of place in this particular movie.
Yeah, he's like a mid '90s character in the middle of this movie that takes place in the '60s.
Yeah,
his haircut, his clothes. I'm like, why is this guy here? You walk on the wrong set, and they just went with it.
I feel like that was the modus operandi of this entire production. I would just slightly disagree with you guys. I think the musical numbers, they were they're well placed in terms of the story that they were trying to tell.
Mm.
I think they did make sense, like the "Say You Want a Revolution," where he
Yeah.
goes
Oh
into
yeah.
the radicals
Mhm.
kind of office and starts tearing the place up, and that was pretty effective. The LSD trip stuff. I mean, it works. It's just too obvious, and also I think it would have been better and would have required a lot more discipline than this movie has. But to show or to display the songs and the musical visual interpretations in terms of the chronology of the Beatles,
Mm.
because we get all of their eras mixed up into a blender in here.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
also told literally, so there's no sense of, evolution or any of that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
I just recently acquired a number of these from a good friend of mine who was looking to cull his record collection because he was moving, and this was from his parents. So I got this one, which was really cool. Beat the Beatles, the first album. Ooh, it's beat the crap. But this one, I think this is the album that they started because this is the one that actually has Across the Universe on it. Let It Be album, as well as I've Got a Feeling. It's got Dig It. It's got, well, obviously Let It Be on here as well, Maggie May. But I think, and this was their first like new phase Beatles album as it's being promoted. So they did mix up a lot of them, but it really seemed like they tried to take from the later Beatles catalog for the most part for a lot of it, because of the period, but not all.
Well,
I'm
I
not
mean, if you're going to make a political statement, you're going to go with the later Beatles. One thing that confused me: do the Beatles exist in this universe? I don't believe they do.
No.
No, the Beatles don't exist in here. The musicians have their songs that are Beatles songs.
Well,
But
I mean, that's the thing, is it's another weird bit here because it's all politics in this version, in this universe of the 60s, but without the music. The music, I don't know what the kids in this reality are listening to.
Yeah.
Because the other problem is, and it's, my God, I wanted to rip my own head off whenever this ridiculous subplot about JoJo and the landlady or whatever came on,
Sadie,
because this is just a piss poor allegory of Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix, but they're singing Beatles songs, and they're really uninteresting, and they just take up way too much space. This movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and it is at least an hour over, past its welcome. But I mean, it's a good point. I don't think the Beatles exist in this reality, but I don't think any of the cultural iconic, musicians from that period exist in this reality, and they're as integral to what was going on in the 60s as what you saw in the headlines. So it's a big problem.
Well, yeah, and that's what's interesting is the music played a big part. Folk music, the whole nine. I mean, we we had freaking Dylan movie earlier. I mean, musicians, not just the Beatles, were very influential in being the voice of the young generation, the discourse, the political, landscape. All of that was being expressed through art and especially music. And in here, those icons all appear to be missing. Now that you mention, now it's just hitting me. It's you get people singing the Beatles songs, but you don't even get them talking about other musicians.
Yeah.
Like JoJo. I mean, I liked it's funny. I was talking to when I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, I like the characters around our main characters more than our main characters, in all honesty. I liked JoJo and Sadie. While I understand what you were saying with Ian with the subplot, I found their characters in that story at least a little bit more interesting than our main two characters.
I mean, was there anything in what they were doing or saying in the film that was unexpected?
Well, no,
because we've seen
the whole film's is predictable. I'm not
Right.
saying the film isn't predictable. I'm just saying, as far as enjoying the characters themselves and how they're written and even how they're being portrayed. I enjoyed Jojo and Sadie and Prudence. Poor Prudence. Like I said, she's the singer. The actress TV Carpio is the actual like singer, I think, musician by trade, and acting, I think, is this was not one of her first acting, but still. And I liked her. I Want to Hold Your Hand because it fit the scene at least. And but her character like just disappears. She like shows up. They set her up with their own musical number, which again is great. And you've got this actual professional singer in your movie. You're gonna have her sing. And then we don't see her for a big block of time, and then suddenly she comes in through the bathroom window, and then we have this moment where they talk her out of the closet because she's sad because she's go figure in the closet as a lesbian in the 60s, and then she disappears again. But they don't even show her disappearing, like packing her bags or anything. We literally get a jump, and suddenly they're like, "Oh, when do you think Prudence will be back?" And I'm like, "Prudence left."
And she ended up in the sideshow, didn't she?
She ended up in Mr. Kite's circus. Yes.
Which, oh my God, if there was that, you know what? I could take the blandness of most of these songs, but Jesus Christ. For the Benefit of Mr. Kite was butchered by Eddie Izzard. Like, holy shit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's ad-libbing in the middle of the song? Like, are you gonna, after this, he's gonna go rewrite Hamlet, by the way. What is that? I've never had any issue with Eddie Izzard as a performer. I've always, been, whatever, their stand-up, whatever. I've always been fine with it. But man, I am. That was the point where I wanted to, kick this movie across the universe, because I was like, I love For the Benefit of Mr. Kite. I think it's a great, great song, and it's literally just I forget. I think it was either Paul or John saw a flyer and just decided to set it to music, and it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And this version of it is, and again, it falls into the trap that a lot of these songs fall into. That they're all way too on the nose. Everything about this movie, I think, is on the nose. I feel like this is the kind of movie where if I was in a screenwriting class and I turned in this screenplay, the professor would be like, "No, you're getting an F because you put no effort into anything. You don't like. There was no subtext to anything. Everything was just thrown at you, just in the most obvious way possible."
I mean, it is literally an autistic screenplay. Here's the Beatles catalog, turn it into a movie, and then that's it. And set it in the 60s and have it something to do with the protest.
And that was, I think, the struggle I had with it, because I do like the second half better than the first half, which isn't a high bar, but I at least enjoyed it in the second half because it calmed down. It almost like it got its head out of its own ass, at least. And at least the story, we focused a bit more on story than musical numbers and how many times we can work the Beatles. And we do actually get into the story and the setting and our couple and that at least a little bit more after they take their trip to Mr. Kite's circus. But and I'm not saying that it's completely well done, but at least from there, I at least was able to get into it a little more, because up until then it was really just feeling so disjointed for me. I'm just like, what are you doing? But this film wanted to work in the serious moments of the time, but it made it so glossy and overproduced, and just the way it was handled, there was no weight to it. Even when they show scenes of Max later on in the montage, one of the montage songs they did, where he's in Vietnam getting shot at and shooting people and such, and he's supposed to be this experiencing this very traumatic moment. I felt no weight in that
Yeah,
whatsoever.
and it goes, even the assassination of Martin Luther King has no weight in this movie. Like it's
It's on
just something that
TV,
happened.
and they
It's
watch
just
it, and
something
then
that happened.
they watch it and move on. No one reacts to it. No one mentions. They're just like, oh, and they move. It's
And that's another thing that's part of the. I'm like, the '60s were one of the most tumultuous, important times in American history. Like, how do you like? It just feels, if everything about this movie to me feels like a cynical cash grab by some producer who's like, hey, let's make a movie about the '60s and use Beatles music, and that's it. And that's where it all ends. It's where every thought that was put into this ends. And that. I think that's why. Like, we watched so many Donald G. Jackson movies, and they were incompetent. But this is the first movie this year where I felt like I was fucking insulted by this movie's existence, because it just feels like a cynical cash grab to me. And it's so easy. It's so easy to have a great soundtrack when you're using the fucking Beatles' greatest hits. I found myself more often just kind of singing along to these songs that I love, and really just failing to really pay attention to the movie that much anymore, because I stopped giving a shit, because it just became sing along with the Beatles songs. And every time that I'm watching anything happen in between, I couldn't care less about these people. And nothing they do, nothing they say, nothing they experience has even the slightest bit of emotional weight. And it just left me dumbfounded at the end. And of course, because the Beatles' final appearance together was on a rooftop, this movie has to end with the group getting together on a rooftop.
Yeah.
Yeah, the famous the rooftop recording with Sadie, because they do this amongst all these other little threads, besides the love relationship between Jude and Lucy. You do have the Sadie angle. She's got her band with the Po' Boys. They're really talented. There's a record producer. You get that standard cliche of, well, I want the lead singer, but not the band. And so you get that angle to it. And she becomes big, and, that rocks her with JoJo. That was a good scene. That was a scene my wife and I really enjoyed, though. Well, I know you didn't quite care for the characters. I thought their couple dispute on stage, the way those two went at each other through their song, I really liked that moment personally. I just loved how he just started screwing with the riffs, and then they just went back and forth, and then she walked off stage and they just sang the rest. But I like that scene. And there's parts of this movie that I did enjoy, but as a movie as a whole, yeah, at the end of it, I didn't care if Judy and Lucy got together. And the band getting back together too was so abrupt, and you get a lot of those abrupt moments. And I think those pieces are missing. It, like I said, it makes jumps in months to where you're spending part of the time trying to catch up, going, where is, this? Why, where are we? Why is this the way it is? Because they just jump, and there's like no lead in to it.
But the reason it's a big deal when the Beatles had that rooftop recording is because the Beatles were, for the last 7, 8, 9 years, the biggest musical act on the planet.
Right.
There's no indication that Sadie and her band, like anybody outside of that club that has like 40 people in it, gives a rat's ass about them. So why
Sadie was on tour? We got the one scene where she's with her agent, where she hates the guitar player, and she wants she's missing JoJo, and she's talking to the record producer, who says, "Oh, we're at the ratty end of the tour." So she went on tour. She's a recording artist of some sort.
All right, but there were nowhere bands who were also on tour at the same time as the Beatles. So going on tour doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you got to be on like that level of like the Beatles, Michael Jackson, Madonna, Nirvana, Taylor Swift, somebody on that level of like the biggest
Yeah.
act in the world. For anybody to give a shit that you're on a rooftop, singing for free, who cares?
Well,
Like
and then Prudence showed up as well. That's what I mean. So we get it's funny because I love her intro when we first meet her character, but then her character could have just been cut out of this film because there's nothing. She shows up. There's the one scene in the closet. She disappears. She shows up Mr. Kite Circus barely. She disappears again for another hour and a half until we get to the end where she's playing a toy piano on the roof with the rest of the group, which somehow now suddenly has gotten back together. Jim Sturgis, who plays Jude, I never felt anything. And that's the problem. For musicals to work, you need to feel something between your two leads. You need to feel that attraction. You need to feel that, chemistry between them. And Evan Rachel Wood and Jim Sturgis act their parts fine, but there is no chemistry between these two. I do not buy at all that these two are in love legitimately in love at any point.
Well, why not? I mean, the screenplay tells you that they are. Isn't that enough? I mean, Jim Sturgis, he was in a few other things around this time. He was Hollywood was trying to make him happen, as the phrase goes, but he always struck me as like the personification of a pressed shirt. And Evan Rachel Wood, I mean, I haven't seen this movie since it came out, and again, I vowed never to watch it again, but I'm doing it for you, Mark.
I thank you, and thank you.
Yes, but to me, she struck me as bearing an awful big resemblance to Rachel Brosnahan, and they both have Rachel in the name. I'm like, they should play sisters in a movie at some point. A movie I'd watch, but not this.
Movie called The Rachel Sisters or something.
Well, but
Nice.
That's the thing is I shouldn't be feeling for these side characters more so than your two main characters in a musical that, when they play the romantic storyline, you're supposed to be rooting for your two main characters. And I'm not. And obviously they aren't, because Jude, the most he ever shows emotion is when he thinks the radical who Lucy decides to join the Democratic Change group, the protest group, which is run by, was it Paco or something? Is it? He gets jealous, and that's the first time we see any type of emotion. But when he gets like deported back after getting in a ruckus at a protest, you don't feel any emotion at all, like he's missing her at all. We don't get like a lament song or anything. He's just like, I'm back in Liverpool now. Yep, here I am. And she's just like, yep, he's back in. I
mean, he's got the personality of a wet mackerel. I wouldn't give a shit about him either,
But then, I mean, didn't you guys feel it when they showed up at the end across the roof from each other and there's love or something?
Oh, man, you know what? At that moment, I'm looking and I'm seeing Lucy standing in the background, and there's the little diamond shapes in the gate in front of her, and I'm like, oh no. And sure enough, the closing credit song is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
I was annoyed by my wife because as the music would cue up, especially around her, I go, oh, here we go. And then it wouldn't be Lucy in the Sky. She's like, this isn't Lucy in the Sky. Listen to the words, Mark. This isn't Lucy. I'm like, oh, wait, here we go. Like the third time, I'm like, I know it's coming. You don't name her Lucy in a Beatles song, in a Beatles themed musical, and not have at some point. And so they waited till the end credits to play.
As soon as I saw the name Prudence, I'm like, okay, Dear Prudence is going to be worked in. As soon as I saw the name Jude, okay, Hey Jude is going to be worked in.
JoJo, right? I outside of Prudence's opening number, the other one that I thought at least it made sense because of the lyrics the way they are to the song it made sense that a guy who's for your stereotypical character, okay, I'm not trying to paint anybody in real world, but I'm just saying in a movie, your stereotypical character, your guy who's just hanging out in a subway, singing the songs for I Come Together, Come Together, played by Joe Cocker, actually, who's the old man there who was singing when JoJo arrives in New York and they start singing Come Together over me. Those lyrics, the way they are, at least made sense because you could see some guy just spouting those lyrics, like talking to himself,
Yeah.
because they're so metaphor and artistic. And then you get the singing hookers in there as well later on. But I mean, at least but what's funny is you're right about it being on the nose, because the minute Joe Cocker started when JoJo shows up, and Joe Cocker, Joe Cocker, because he plays a couple of roles in here, he starts singing Come Together. I'm like, oh, this is where all our characters that we've been introduced for the last 40 minutes in random scenes are actually going to come together.
You know what would have made this movie work for me? Get the entire cast of Waiting for Guffman and have it be a production by that theater group. This movie would have been brilliant. I would have been like, yes, 5 stars, because this is something that they would have put together. Because it reminded me of the musical that they put together about the history of the town. Just working through things and not just the most basic knowledge, nothing, any depth whatsoever. If this would have been that cast, and it could have been like a secretive thing, like those of you who know. This movie would have been brilliant.
Here's the thing, Joe. I mean, all you would have had to do is swap in the cast and not change anything else about the movie. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing, is like you wouldn't even have to ask Christopher Guest or Catherine O'Hara to like comedy it up. If they had just played it straight, it would have been a brilliant comedy.
Yeah.
Especially because I think it would have been odd if they were all playing, college students, but then he would have had a nice walk hard Dewey Cox situation, so that's always a win too.
And it would have been a brilliant comedy at that point. I just thought of that like just a second ago when you guys were talking. Like, oh my god, if this would have been Waiting for Guffman 2, this would have been brilliant. You don't show anything, you don't do the documentary footage, you just do this is the musical that they put together, and it would all make sense. Every bit of it would make sense.
See, if for whatever reason I have to watch this movie again in the future, that's how I'm gonna save myself, is just imagining the Guffman cast. Like, can you imagine Fred Willard as Max?
Yes. And Christopher Guest as Jude. I mean, it would be great.
Wow.
No, Parker Posey as Lucy.
Wow, that would.
Catherine O'Hara is Prudence. I would.
Yeah,
love
there you go. Yeah, you got it. I think you got a winner here. No, but
Christopher Guest, if you're listening, I'm sure you're not. You need to do this.
It's really wild because you can tell they're intending to like bring emotion in. And I think that's for me as we're talking here too, because I was trying to pin what is it really that it's this screenplay, and maybe even in some of the direction in that there really is no weight in this film at all. I mean, if you compare it to the other musicals that were really big coming out, at the time. I mean, look at Moulin Rouge, for crying out loud. I love Moulin Rouge, and I even liked when they did Chicago. As well. You look at some of the more modern musicals, and they were working in songs that, hey, even Mamma Mia, for crying out loud. They're working in songs, but they were able actually to give you some emotional connection. This one really felt like that took a back seat to how many Beatles songs that we have rights to can we work into this movie.
I think that's ultimately what fails it, because it literally just felt like I really want to insert this Beatles song here. let's figure out a way to shoehorn it in, and that's what it felt like to me. It just reminded me that I could have been listening to all my Beatles albums.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, when you said you were kind of singing along with them, were you singing along with the versions that were in the movies, or were you just
No,
kind of
I was like,
recalling the versions
keep
from
up,
the album?
keep up.
Yeah.
I think the only one they got right tonally was probably "Dear Prudence" and "I Want to Hold Your Hand."
Yeah. See,
yeah, the "I Want to Hold Your Hand" thing bugged the crap out of me because it reminded me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The whole thing where Willow, comes out of the closet as being gay, and she's got, she's trying to express her feelings for a class. I mean, it's just that, and it was done 7 years before this movie came out, and you just feel like Julie Taymor and the other two screenwriters, like, oh man, people are going to be so amazed because we have Prudence across the football field, and we have the focus on the football player. So you think, oh no, she's got a crush on the cheerleader. Isn't this so revolutionary and cool? And no,
I mean, it all felt ham-fisted. Like it really did.
It felt like it was aimed at 12-year-olds who'd never seen like movies or things with mature themes before, but they're not going to care about a movie about the Beatles even in 2007. And if you're trying to appeal to adults who are going to have nostalgia for it, they're not going to care about a tired ass Dawson's Creek plot that, has been done to death. It's a mess. A movie, the better version of this movie, and it's not a musical, but it is about the Beatles, is Robert Zemeckis' first film, I think, from 1978 called I Want to Hold Your Hand. And it's about a group of teenagers from New Jersey who are obsessed with getting tickets to the Ed Sullivan Show for the Beatles' U.S. debut. And it's all like hijinks and drama and stuff like that. And it's great. And it's not nearly as long as this ungodly long film. And it's like, once you see that, this movie is completely unnecessary. I mean, this is like a hybrid of Rent meets I Want to Hold Your Hand, frankly, meets a whole bunch of other stuff. Forrest Gump, oddly enough. Trying to like, oh, this is what the 60s was all about, man. This is like the Time magazine synopsis of the 1960s. It's like what George Carlin said about white people playing the blues. He said it's not enough to know which notes to play. You have to know why they need to be played.
Right. And I think that right there, Ian, is what the issue with this has. It's like, we know this is all the elements that you have in a musical, so we're going to put it in there, but lacking for the most part, for me anyway, but not completely, but for the most part, lacking that cohesion, that underlying emotional connection that makes musicals special. I mean, because if you think about it, what's funny is if you look at musicals from the 2000s, I don't even think IMDb, does it even mention? No, it doesn't. It only mentions it because I looked it up earlier. It doesn't even mention Across the Universe. When someone's list of musicals from the 2000s.
Wow.
But you had Moulin Rouge in there, Hedwig and the Angry Inch from 2001. You had Chicago, School of Rock. You could consider that a musical. Ray. You had a new screen version of Phantom of the Opera. You had Rent, The Producers, Dreamgirls, Happy Feet, Hairspray, Mamma Mia, Sweeney Todd, The Demon of Barber Street. You had that new version of Fame. I forgot that was out in 2009. And you have this. And if you look at those films and you look at what they're trying to do here, what you were saying, Joe, makes even more sense. Someone had access to the Beatles, had a catalog, access to like licensing to do this group of Beatles songs. And oh, hey, everybody's doing these musicals nowadays. We could do a musical.
I mean, when you look at also who is behind a lot of the musicals you just mentioned, Baz Luhrmann, Tim Burton, you had people who genuinely wanted to make these movies. They
right.
I don't think anybody would have been better than, those people. Who directed this? I'm gonna have to look that up because I'm like,
It's Julie Taymor.
It was Julie Taymor.
No.
It was the same person who co-wrote the script. It was Julie Taymor.
She directed Frida, I think, right?
Who directed Frida, right? And that was her only other really big film, if you will, was Frida. Well, Titus as well. That had Anthony Hopkins in it, but that wasn't wide released as like Frida and Across the Universe.
When you look through a lot of her filmography,
very little.
This doesn't fit in there.
No. Although with Frida too, you get Salma Hayek showing up for.
Oh, you do get Salma Hayek showing up here, and
as a nurse.
You know what? I just remembered Salma Hayek scene 5 stars. Go see this. An army of Salma Hayeks showing up as
an army of Jill. My wife, she was like, "Wait, are they all Salma Hayek?" And I think they're all made up to look like her. I think only one of them actually is. And again, even that scene, that's the thing is, that's what's missing. It's trying to work. I think I would have been just fine if they wouldn't have tried so hard to work these 60s historical moments as a part of the actual like full plot. Like they could have easily had just the Max character, had Jude and Lucy meet any other way and just have the Max character be mentioned as, oh, my brother's in Vietnam, and not actually have him be a character here, and stick with your couple, because they just try to do too much in here to where they're like, oh, not only are we doing this romance, it's during the tumultuous 60s, and oh yeah, we're going to hit these key historical moments, but the historical moments have no emotion to them. I mean, when he's in Vietnam, a guy gets shot from the only emotional moment, and it actually got my wife, it was during the Let It Be montage where they were showing the riot in Detroit and they had people get shot. And then you had the kids singing it, Let It Be. And then they're showing the parallels again between, this funeral and this funeral in the white neighborhood, if you want, or whatever, and this funeral in Detroit, and the kids laying in the casket. And that got my wife at least a bit. But they do a number of those too, where I think they're trying to say something, where you've got the parallels, because when you open, you've got the clean cut Lucy's family and the high school like dance number from like literally from Footloose, and then you have like the underground kind of grungy that Jude is hanging out in with the rockers and the sewers and that, and they were trying to show them how there's very similar. And then we have the funeral number where they're kind of showing very similar things. They're trying to make a connection, but they never are successful in actually
and
bringing that together with some kind of actual something to say.
And I think that's because they decided to make this into the Cliff Notes version of the 60s. Because had you maintained some kind of focus, had you made it like, this movie isn't about anything. I think that's ultimately my issue with it. It's not about anything.
It's about Jude and Lucy getting together.
That's for 5 minutes. 5 minutes and several musical numbers.
Right. I mean, I think that's the key. Is like, if you would set this movie in any other time period, what is so special about that time and place and the music that relates to Jude and Lucy's love story? Nothing. It's a cookie cutter love story plot that's been taken from a dozen bad movies and 500 bad television shows. And yeah, I mean, the music, they don't do anything with it. It's all very surface level. It's just so frustrating, because I thought, I could just be doing housework or dishes or cleaning out my garage, listening to the Beatles catalog and just being with my own thoughts. But I'm stuck here watching this terrible interpretation of these songs in this movie, and I can't leave because I got to talk about it later.
And I think that's also part of the problem with this is what's so special about this this time period. The time period itself is very pivotal to American history.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie just makes it, like you just said, it's very surface level.
See,
And like Mark said earlier, there's no weight to any of it because you just move from one event to the next. It's like when your fifth grader is in the school play about American history. And then George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, and then Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and then and it just kind of goes on like that, but there's no emotional resonance to anything. That's I think probably what made me think of Waiting for Guffman is like the play that they put on there. There is no emotional resonance to anything in the play itself. The interesting part is like that memory about what the fuck they were thinking making this movie might be better than this movie.
Well, it's additionally that it's a big misstep because this film would have been conceived probably in 04, 05 because it was released in 07. And as with a lot of art, and I'll just call it bad art from that period, it was very much because this is the George W. Bush administration, very much anti-war, government, anti kind of right-wing authoritarianism. And so I understand why this movie came out when it did and why they thought they were going to double capture a zeitgeist with the hit of musicals, especially, most notably Rent, and then the sort of like anti-Bush sentiment in the country at the time. But the movie didn't do anything to tie that together.
No.
It's like, here's what happened 40 or 50 years ago, and here's what's happening now, and this is why you should care. I mean, there's definitely a strong movie to be made there, but again, they just genericized everything with these, this dumb teenager story. I think you could have had something really powerful there by drawing those parallels, but they just decided, just the fact that it existing is going to be enough to make it good, or at least sellable.
Some of the best anti-Vietnam War movies were movies that had nothing to do with the Vietnam War, but were able to draw parallels at that time period to what was going on. And I think that's what makes the movies work. This one, there were a couple times where you guys mentioned something. I just can't touch because I'm like, you're taught when you're when you're doing screenwriting classes or you're reading Sid Field or you're reading Blake Snyder or whoever, you stay away from the on the nose thing. And this movie just dove into it. It just kept going on the nose. And I never understood, like, Ian, you said, was this movie made for 12-year-olds who didn't I don't understand it. I don't understand why it exists, what it's trying to tell me.
It's not trying to tell you anything, and that's what we're kind of I think circling around here is it just exists. It is what it is, and that's all that it is.
Yeah, and I will I know how I opened this, but I'm going to say that of the three movies that we've seen, which seems to be a series of like musical numbers connected together, this one is the most random and least cohesive of the three, which if you've heard our conversations on Tommy and on The Wall, it's almost trying to be kind of in that style. And
yeah.
And I've not gone to film school, folks, ever. Okay, I'm not one of those guys. So you're probably like, you shouldn't be a film critic, and you're absolutely right. I probably shouldn't.
I don't agree with that.
But in any case, what I will say is that what is missing is what Ian mentioned and Joe said. The purpose, what they're trying to say with this. I mean, it's one thing to use these Beatles songs. It's another thing to use them in a different context. In this case, America versus Britain for the most part. And trying to put it in, and then try to have these historical moments reenacted, like, the riots where the cops beat the students. We have a scene that's a kind of a callback to that or whatnot. But none of it feels like it has a real point. Like this has an actual voice. There's a lot of singing, but it's not saying anything. It doesn't actually have a cohesive feel to it, to where by the end of it, you're like, oh, look, everybody's singing pretty much Kumbaya. you know, they're not saying that, but I mean, it's one of those things where you're just like, all you need is love is what they're singing. And I'm like, yeah, Moulin Rouge did this part better 7 years ago.
I mean, there's even a Tiananmen Square reference in there that I just felt like, okay, you just dropped a reference to it, but I don't think there was any weight behind what you just said. Like, oh, would you stand in front of a tank?
Oh, and I would throw myself in front of a tank if
That's
it meant,
what it was. I would throw myself in front of a tank.
and they throw that tank, and then it just moves on. But there's no emotional pause.
Well, on top of that, Tiananmen Square was 1989, so I don't know what the hell they were talking about there.
Yeah.
But something that you just mentioned about the ending just removed a splinter from my brain. I'm like, why is it so weird? And what's weird about it is this movie takes place in the 1960s. There's no reason to believe that we get past 1968 or 69. The Vietnam War ended in 1975.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't know that watching this movie because all the tumult and protests and all that stuff, it seems to come to a climax when the organizers that Lucy had kind of fallen in with, they start making these weapons of mass destruction, as you might say, and there's an incident and a few of them get killed and it makes the newspapers, and Jude reads about it back in Liverpool. But then from there, we go into the, hey, let's get these two crazy lovebirds back together, and there's the roof concert, and all you need is love and everything. Apparently not, because the war didn't end for another 6 years after this movie ends.
Well,
also, it felt rushed.
Yeah.
The ending felt very rushed. Like, oh, let's just get them back together. We got to hurry up. This movie's already 2 hours and 5 minutes long.
On top of that, it's like, but in terms of the runtime, Joe, you're absolutely right, because Jude, when he's at that riot and he ends up getting put in jail, his father comes, his birth father comes to tell him, like, yeah, you're in trouble and you're going to have to go back. It's an immigration issue. And so he gets sent back to Liverpool. But then 10 minutes later, after an indefinite amount of time has passed, he's going back to America and getting his paper stamped. So he's on a timeout. I don't know how that works. Like, he got kicked out of the country. You sit on the penalty box for like a week, and then you come back to the States and everything's great.
Yeah, I didn't understand that part of him being able to come back after he got kicked out because he got part of the riot. I'm like, I would have thought that even for records back then, they would have had a list or something for him going, no, you were part of a protest and you got thrown in jail. Sorry, you got deported for whatever reason. But again, you never feel it. And that's what's missing, that you don't feel it with any of these characters just about, because you're not given enough time. They cram so many musical bits and numbers and references and are so focused on doing that. And, oh yeah, bringing in the historical references, but then never giving you a quiet moment. If you think about it, even when we get the Say You Want a Revolution segment, which again made a lot of sense, great set, that worked.
That was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, that actually worked, and the way they did it was great. And then he comes home and he finds that Lucy left. There isn't even an emotional beat there. He looks around, which she must have took his clothes too, because all the cabinets were empty. The entire closet was empty. I mean, there were no clothes in that apartment whatsoever anymore. I'm like, where's his stuff? Did she take his stuff too? I'm like, damn, that's cold. But there's nothing there anymore. And so he slides down down the wall, and then we move on to a number, or we are never given enough time to get the impression that what is happening is meaning anything to these two people. I think we get a tear from Lucy at one point.
And the one bit of restraint they exercise in this movie is they don't turn that tear into a little animated diamond. But Mark, I want to correct something. You said that when he came home, everything was cleared out, and apparently Lucy took all of the clothes out of the closet and everything, including his. That's incorrect, because Prudence was still in that closet, I'm pretty sure.
Oh Jesus! Wow.
I know I went a long way for that joke, but
You went. That was a long way for that comment. You went. And let's not forget that we have you draw me like one of your French girls scenes in here.
A plus.
Literally, almost literally. They didn't say the words, but if you know this, if you watch this, and if you seen it, you know the scene I'm talking about. It literally was almost cut and directed like the scene from Titanic when Leo is drawing, Kate Winslet on her couch, wearing nothing but the necklace. In this case, he's drawing her while she's sleeping, which apparently he got a job as an artist. We don't really know. That's the thing is, again, it really feels like they were so focused on the Beatles angle and then referencing the 60s that they forgot they had characters here that they actually needed to like give us some emotional connection to.
Well, I mean, are you talking about because if you're talking about the logo thing, I mean, he's drawing throughout this entire movie. Like his art is everywhere.
Right. I know his art, but you don't get the impression he's actually he's actually doing it for work, because the last time it's mentioned is when he actually is talking to her and goes, "Oh, hey, I got an actual job. I'm doing the logo for the recording studio where Sadie's at." Mm-hmm. That's the only time he ever mentions he's actually doing this as a job. Otherwise, he's drawing, but I don't know. I know it's a small thing, but it's just one of those things where there's character bits in here that we don't get that would at least allow you to maybe connect a little bit or understand them a little bit more. At the end of this, I'm like, okay, they love each other. I still don't really know who Lucy is outside of a naive, suburbanite who, and Jude even less. I'm like, this guy, who the hell is he? I don't even know who he is. He likes to smash strawberries when he gets angry, I guess. For Strawberry Fields, which there's some visuals for you folks, to which when he's nailing the strawberries in line, like, graves, and they're montaging this with footage from Vietnam because Strawberry Fields, is actually the bloody fields. Anyway, he puts that artwork with the strawberries. I'm like, dude, you could probably sell that in New York for like $1 million. Someone would buy it. I'm like, just take that off the wall, go sell it, and all your financial troubles are over. Because I'm like, that piece of work is probably one of his better pieces of art.
Yeah.
I made my wife laugh because when he's drawing her while she's sleeping, which is creepy, and she, like naked, and he's just drawing her, I'm like, wow, that looks like ass. And she just cracked up because I saw his drawing, and I'm like, that's not a great drawing. You drew better with a piece of burnt stick on the side of a wall, dude.
Yeah. Well, and I did love that, before he came up with the strawberry idea, he was trying to draw a green apple. You get it? Do you get it? He's drawing a green apple.
Yeah. So
and that feels like, to me, like that's this whole movie in a nutshell. Hey, do you get it?
There's so many you get it moments in here that's why I said, I go back to my point, and we'll wrap it up here. First off, spoiler room, we don't like dissing so much on a film, but
as I do. When a movie puts me through this much,
well, yes,
twice, even separated by nearly 2 decades, I have a resentment against this movie. So yeah, this is the only thing that got me through this film again, is because I was able to come here and do this. This kept me going.
Well, there's Ian's final thought. Joe, You got anything to add?
War, man. Wow.
No, you can't use that. The Beatles didn't sing that, so you can't even put that song in here.
I mean, this felt like a pretentious art student put this together. Like that's what I got from this. Is I'm like, visually we're gonna I went to film school. I ran across these people all the time, and surprisingly, none of them are working in the industry anymore. But it was always like, we're going to do this and this. Yeah, this image is going to blow you away. These images are going to blow you away. What's the story? Well, it doesn't matter. It matters. And yeah, this is man, this is what happens when you are sitting in a closet sniffing your own farts, because you start thinking like, this is the kind of thing, this is gold. Was this Oscar bait? Did they think like, we're going to win an Academy Award for this? This is why I want a documentary on this movie. And like, what the fuck were they thinking? Because were they getting together thinking like, this is going to be the one that changes humanity?
When did this came out in 2007? I'm trying to find out.
It got nominated for
October 12th. For what?
Best Achievement in Costume Design.
Okay, all right, yeah, fine. They made a period piece. Yeah, you make a fucking period piece, you're gonna get nominated for costume design.
Yeah, and the soundtrack got nominated for a Grammy. And Teen Choice Awards got nominated. Notice how I'm saying nominated.
Wait, this was after I Am Sam, right?
Yes. by about 6 years, yes.
You had two very...
Wow.
That's a great double feature.
Wow.
That's your double feature. This and
I just like to say that the opinions of my panel do not exactly reflect the opinions of the spoiler room. Whatever. So my final thoughts, since I think Joe gave his as well. My final thought is I found bits and pieces entertaining and interesting. I did like it in fits and spurts, but by the end of it, it was like, what was the actual point? What were you trying to say with this? What were you trying to do with this? What were you trying to actually show? And it felt like it didn't know. It felt like it had a lot of these ideas and they just glommed them together, expecting the audience to just kind of like roll with it. And as my wife said it best, she's like, this is a background movie.
Yeah.
She's like, this is a movie, she's like, that you could put on. And she's like, I could see myself watching it again, as in I could turn it on and I'll do housework and have it on in the background, because she liked the music. She liked a lot of the singing in that and the performances, which I did like. I like some of the renditions and stuff too. But she's like, you can put this on in the background because you don't have to sit there and be invested in it, because there's nothing to be invested in.
But like Ian pointed out, you could actually just put on the Beatles too.
Or you could just put on one of the number of albums that are released by the band, the Beatles, or the Bugs, if you want to go that far back.
I love that Mark's shilling the Beatles like they need this podcast.
They do. They need this podcast. The Beatles, we're bringing them back, baby.
You've never heard of the Beatles. The Beatles were a 1960s band from Liverpool. Oh my God, I just got it. They were from Liverpool.
You just picked up on that.
5 stars.
The fact that he was from Liverpool, the minute that came, I was like, oh, yeah, that tracks.
I honestly thought this was going to be like, when I first threw it on, I thought this was going to be like about the Beatles in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh my God, no, this is so much worse.
And you know what? I think what they wanted to do would have worked better had they kept it in London, had they kept it at least in the setting in London, and focus on parts that us Westerners may not be aware of what went on in London during the 60s, because it wasn't just the US that had its own troubles. Keep it in London, and then you could have your news articles or whatever referencing in the US historical events, but keep it focused to, say, the music underground scene of the 60s in London, or
band trying to come together in that. Like if this movie had some kind of focus, it would probably be better, because you literally could take the Beatles music and make a movie make a musical telling an actual story. This stuff taking place in the background, but it's really, because it never focuses on a love story. It never focuses on Sadie and her band. It never focuses on any one thing. It just, it's there. It exists. It's like they took the laziest way to make this movie and went with it.
I'm gonna disagree on the idea of having this movie take place exclusively in England. Because we run into the same problem that we have here, which is it never acknowledges the fact that the Beatles exist.
Right.
You can get away with that in America, but if you set this in the 60s in England and you don't reference the Beatles, but you have Beatles music, you're like, are we dealing with like a Life of Brian situation? If it's a band, like why are the Beatles going to sue them because they're singing their songs? Or, it just becomes a mess. There's no good way really to do this movie at all. And what's even more cynical is it comes down to, I get the feeling it was the rights were a huge part of why we got these. I'm just going to call them all terrible covers of the Beatles songs, because to my mind, there's only ever been one good cover of a Beatles song, and it came from the movie License to Drive. It was a cover of Drive My Car by the Breakfast Club, which is kind of a reinterpretation of that song from the Beatles, but I'm getting off far afield. I feel like they got the publishing rights to use the songs in the movie, but they didn't get the recording rights to use the original Beatles music.
Right.
If they had used the original Beatles songs in here and not bothered with the conceit of like we have to show everyone singing them, I think it could have been more powerful. But as it stands, it's like, you're right, Joe and Mark, like just put on the album and go to town.
Which makes me wonder too if it's a rights thing with them not actually mentioning the Beatles, because people singing Beatles songs, and maybe you would even that connective tissue would have probably helped, is having the Beatles, actually acknowledging the Beatles actually exist in this universe of Across the Universe, but in the background, but everybody knows the songs. That's why they're busting out into Beatles songs, because the Beatles actually do exist and they've dominated the music so much that it's in its culture and people are using it to express themselves or whatever through that. At least if you would have done that, I think, but they may not have even had the rights to actually use the name of the Beatles. Just, okay, you could do new versions of them, but that's what you got the rights to it. Oh yeah, only this collection of, oh yeah, but here's a couple of deep cuts that only deep Beatles fans are going to really know these songs.
No, that wouldn't have been a thing. I mean, if they had the rights to use the music, they can say the Beatles. They can acknowledge them. If you're trying to use the likenesses of John, Paul, George, Ringo, that's a whole other thing.
True.
But it's just, again, kind of from a conceptual, fundamental standpoint, there's way too many problems with this movie for it to actually work. You need a stronger screenplay. You need a stronger outline.
You definitely need a
period.
You definitely need a stronger, cohesive screenplay. And we'll leave it at that, folks. And it shows you that any movie that has a lot of high production and everything to it, if you don't have the backbone of a screenplay, good luck getting it to work. You need a screenplay and at least some kind of backbone to it and purpose. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this. Sorry again for the rant episode, but we do get these every so often.
We're gonna get that one guy that was like, you're just gonna take the movie apart. What was it that he said? The one guy that complained about us once.
Oh yeah. Are you guys just gonna sit there and pick the movie apart? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay.
And what I say is yes, that's what we do.
So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, folks. Now this is always where I give my panel the license to shill. So please shill away. Joe, you got anything to shill at all, sir?
We have the Christmas special of The Last Drive-In coming up. I forget the exact date, but we got a couple weeks. It's going to be two very snowy horror movies hosted by Joe Bob and Darcy. It'll be I want to say it's the Friday before Christmas.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, I guess that's it for now. Nothing else to show at the moment.
Cool. And Ian, I know you got the shill, so shill away, my friend.
Well, I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com and also right here on YouTube. We do live streams and roundtable reviews and interviews and things. Kind of a packed week of shows. Monday, which will be tomorrow, we've got a conversation about the new Richard Linklater film Nouvelle Vague, which is fantastic. I recommend it as a double feature with Breathless, the Godard film, because they're definitely companion pieces. Wednesday, going to be talking about the exact opposite of that, from what I understand, the Running Man remake by Edgar Wright. And yeah, some other things peppered here and there. So watch out. I'm also here on Sundays talking about movies with Mark and Joe as the deepest pleasure of my life, even when discussing alleged films like Across the Universe.
And I appreciate you revisiting it again, though you despise this film. You could have just said no to the episode, but I appreciate you wanting to try to visit it again.
It's been 20 years. I got to see, was there something up my butt when I watched it, or did I really?
And no, it's no. So as far as specialmarkproductions.com, you folks all know, for all your movie man needs, that's where we got back episodes of the Spoiler Room, as well as on our podcast channel, the Spoiler Room. We do get a nice average of you listeners out there, which we appreciate every single one of you. I know it's very noisy out on the internet. It means a lot to me that anyone wants to click on the show and listen to us talk movies, and especially having a panel of these wonderful folks and other guests in the past who have joined in and wanting to talk movies with me. It means very much to this old man's heart. So thank you very much. As far as things, as I may have mentioned, I mentioned in our pre-show, which if you join our Patreon, you can get our conversation before the conversation, which usually entails tech talk and talking about screeners and other movie things, but it can be interesting sometimes. You can check out our Patreon for that, and also look on the YouTube channel if you don't see it. It's up there. I've got a couple new interviews up, and I'll have reviews and stuff dropping this week as well. I did a Running Man 1-minute review, and yeah, I got a couple things that I saw at the Waiawega International Film Festival that I'll be reviewing as well. So all of that and more. Subscribe, likes, and bells and whistles here. We appreciate every single one of you. And until next time, we'll just say good night, everyone.